Hello there. I'll turn it up to level 10. Excuse me. Welcome to another talk. And today's talk is called There's No Point and No Reason for Anything. This is totally abstract to what was just on my mind. I was just posting about narcissists and stuff of that nature. If you hear a beeping noise, that's I've got the dryer on, to dry clothes. Because I'm a mum's registered carer and I do all the washing, the drying, like a housewife. But yeah, my mum's got diabetes and loads of different illnesses, and so blind as well. And I'm her registered carer. Now, but getting on to the topic in hand, and yet, so don't mind the dryer if it makes a beeping noise. But this talk is called There's No Point and No Reason for Anything. There's a meditation I do usually every day where I think of nothing, and it happened from the Unexpected Spiritual Awakening 10 years ago. In that meditation, I say to myself, there's no reason for anything to arise. And I'm telling myself this for probably about 5 minutes. I do this meditation, think of nothing, and remind that to myself. Because if you think about it, everything at some point had to come from absolute nothingness. At some point, right? There has to be a point where there's nothing. No life. And there's no reason for even life to exist. And if you think of it like that, there's no reason for life to manifest. So that means there's no reason for anything that's happening. Right? There's no reason for anything to happen. We're constantly talking about this is the reason for this is the reason for that, and when you're saying all this, that becomes the narrative. You're replaying narratives in your mind. It can be all sorts of narratives. It doesn't matter what the narrative is. Then that narrative that you play to yourself becomes your reality. But if you really think about it, it's all fantasy. It's all stories. It's all ideas, all stories, all fantasies. And there's no reason for anything. Nothingness has to be is the beginning before all life. They even I watched a science documentary a couple of years ago, and they were talking about this machine the science now has that actually can go back to the Big Bang. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a technology they've got now, and they say there was absolutely nothing. And that has to be the case. There has to be a point where there's nothing, right? And yeah, and there's no point to anything to arise from that. So so the Big Bang Theory makes a lot of sense, and that it doesn't mean that there's nothingness has no reason to even exist. It's outrageous. It's actually outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous that anything arises from absolute nothingness. But it does manifest from absolute nothingness. Why? There's no reason. We're constantly trying, like I say, we're constantly trying to find a reason why. And that's just our mind talking. But like I say, there's no point, there's no reason. If you got no non-existence, you've got no idea. You've got no idea. But well, apparently, it's producing dreams. But that's apparent. And that apparent isn't then a narrative. And I've said this before, how the narratives and the apparent play off against each other. They're feeding each other. And it's actually nonsense and outrageous. Stupendous. Yeah, but there's no reason for anything. If nothingness is the start of everything, that means there's no reason for life to exist. Like what Alex Jones once said, that God doesn't even know who he is. And I believe what he meant is, I think he meant, or he didn't say that. Alex Jones said God doesn't even know where he came from. Yeah, that's true, because nothingness has to be the core. It also means that if the nothing is conscious, or if we have consciousness, then it means that the nothing itself must be consciousness itself. But there's no reason for even consciousness to exist, or even for that to be that. I mean, nothingness, the nothing is that which cannot be defined. You can't define nothing, because as soon as you've defined it, that's an idea again. You see? And there's 0 point. And not even a zero. A zero is a made up idea of a number. It's just all ideas. And you can't even say there's nothing, because there's not even nothing. Because if there's one point where there's no nothing, you wouldn't even know what nothing is. So the nothing itself, nothing wouldn't exist. You see? It's a bit like when you dream at night, and Alan Watts, when he was alive, said this, that it's like when you dream at night. You know, when you sleep sometimes, and you sleep for ages and you don't actually dream. But that's a definition of what I think nothingness is. But you can't actually define nothing, because if you're ever experiencing nothing, you wouldn't be experiencing anything, so you can't define it, because you're not experiencing it. You see, but that is the start point. That has to be the start point of all life. And a lot of people don't talk about this. But this is something, I had an unexpected spiritual awakening, apparently, in the dream. And the nothing was one of the first things. I remember I started to think of nothing a lot, and this nothing thing came up, was apparent. Because you've returned to the source. The source has to be nothingness. Now, it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. When I say nothing, I'm not talking from an atheistic perspective. Because if you've got, I believe that God exists because God would be the force, the conscious force within the nothing that is the creator. Right? That's how we're experiencing anything. And ultimately, that's what you are. See, there's people out there that talk about nothingness and non-duality, but they're not really making any sense. It can be explained very simply. God does exist. So atheists are halfway there, and non-atheists are halfway there. The truth is that nothingness has to be the start point, yeah. But then God does exist. God is the conscious creator force within that nothingness. And that force, God forces you ultimately. That's what it means to go within. Within means you're going within the heart chakra, and you're going into the core, and there is a love force that exists within this nothing, and you can call it God, the miracle force of life. So yes, nothingness is the start, but if you've got nothing, if you really go into it, I mean, taking away all definitions of nothing, even me saying there's a God within a nothing. Because nothingness, like I say, it's the real nothingness is that which you can't define. It has no reason to manifest. It has no reason to be. You see? It's stupendous, it's outrageous, it's nonsensical. You see? And it's like what Steve Jobs once said, everything is made up by people that are no more smarter than you. They make it up, apparently. And everything that you experience is apparent. Right? It's apparent. And like I've said before, the apparent and the narratives play off against each other. So be careful what you're saying to yourself. But if you think about it, a non-existent force, which has to be the start of everything, has no reason to do anything. We think it's all holy and divine, but I mean, I believe God is the conscious force that manifested something. But if you really go into the nothing, you can't define it, you can't label it, you can't pin it down, because it's never existed. And it has no reason to exist. It's stupendous, the fact that it does. It's outrageous. But there's no point for anything, and no reason for anything to exist. No reason for anything, no point, And when this is the truth. And I think when you realize there's no reason, you don't stop taking things seriously. But I just want to make it clear that because I talk about nothingness, it doesn't mean I don't believe in God. I'm not talking from an atheistic perspective. I believe God is the conscious force within the nothing that makes the something. But if I go deeper than that, there's not even a reason for a something to manifest from nothing. It has no reason. Has no reason to do anything. All that is my narratives that I'm playing. So the truth is, I don't know anything. And this is the authentic truth. And there's no point and no reason for anything. So if there's no reason for even me existing, how can I know anything? I can't know anything. You see? And this is what an ego death is. It's when you realize you don't actually know anything. But then you've entered another ego, which is saying, I don't know anything. I think that the ego and the nothing are related. They are the same. They don't exist. But within that non-existence is something that makes existence apparent. It's all dreams and illusions and narratives and stories. But I'm just going to leave it there. For latest updates, talks, news, research, and much more, please do check my website, www.lovelightfamily.com. Also, my Cash App is lovelightfamily1111. Thank you.